I'll just repeat what I said before. Let's reflect on whether I am honest and clean in my interactions with people. And the next important question, am I really transparent and honest with the self? My shortcomings, my weaknesses, my defects. Am I really honest in working on them? So from today's workshop, let's try to explore the true, the real, and the deep meaning of transparency for the self and for others. So with this background, let's move further to today's workshop. So first of all, welcome to all of you all, the participants, the interpreters and the recorders, and of course, our dear facilitators, Sister Anu joining from West Coast of Canada and Sister Shruti from West Coast of US. So thank you both of you. Exorbitant list of all the workshops which we have done. We are approaching soon 100. So be with us. Hold on. Today we are on transparency 94. And the icebreaker video which I'll be playing now, it's quite self-evident because it's not really, I really had a difficult time finding out an animated video, but I found this, and this actually tries to mention in a word format what is the difference between transparency and many other things, which is particularly used in the corporate world. See what inspirations you get, and you can then share your insights in the chat box of what is transparency for you? What is the true meaning of transparency for you? I'll play the video. You didn't have much to sort of explore upon. It was directly mentioned differences between transparency, accountability, and fairness. So any thoughts on what is transparency for you? Okay. Please be transparent. Start writing down in the chat box something. Looks like all of you are very tired today.
Chat box is open for everyone. So hope
I hope
will
it
be
good as well. So that is saying, yeah, when our thoughts, words, and actions are in harmony. Perfect dot on answer. Yeah. Michael is saying no retention of information. Yes, we need to disclose everything. Absolutely. And harmony of thought, word, action. Wonderful. Yes. Anything else? I have a few more. We have 3 minutes. Sorry, are you hearing any background noise from my side? No. No. Right. So there's noise cancellation because it's very noisy here. Okay. So again, Michael is saying to see one aspects in all angles. Right. Interesting. One aspect in all angles. Okay. We have quite a few new people. If you all want to unmute and speak, maybe we have 2 minutes. If you're not comfortable writing it down in the chat box. Senem says being an open communicator, honest and courageous, including every necessary information that needs to be shared. Yeah. So all of you are inspired by the video about the corporate world or the share market or whatever. So it's like a mutual fund or a share, invest with due knowledge of what the risks are. So we need to tell the risk as well that time. So share the necessary information, be transparent. Yeah. Okay, so I think if not, then we'll just move to the first exercise so that people can spend more time on that. Over to you, sister, and thank you. And I'll just read, sorry, read this later. Brother manual translates it because it's in Portuguese. So over to you. We'll read it later. No worries. Thank you.
Sure. Yeah. Thank you. So the first one will reflect on transparency. I'm sure the video has opened up some thoughts about what is actually transparency, not holding on to any information, because many times we have our reasons how much to say, how much not to say, and where it can lead to. So dropping off all that thoughts and being transparent, that is where I think the value of courage comes into picture. I'm sure by end of the session, we may have to tap onto that to be transparent. For the very first exercise, we will reflect on another person around us who has been transparent with us. So each of us must have come across situations where the other person is being totally transparent and we can see, feel, and understand that. So let's reflect on one of the instances from the past. And after that, as you reflect through that situation, please write down the advantages of having transparent behavior. So it can be in many layers, like you felt good or there's a positive outcome. What were the advantages of having the transparent behaviors? And we can share that. So I'll give a minute of silence for your reflection. So we are bringing our focused reflection on one person, family, friends, colleague, who was transparent with us, and what were the advantages or benefit that we experienced through that transparent behavior. So I'm sure you have tapped onto that. You are ready to share, not really the detail of the situation, but what were the advantages that you can understand from that situation, that personal situation we all have. Yeah, Michael says trust and respect as the advantages of transparency. It is just the vibration, the energy tells that you can trust. That is all truth coming out. Gautami says we don't take people for granted. That is an advantage. Beautiful. Linda says peace. Yeah, peace in both sides. Yes, Sanem, you can speak and share. Thank you.
I hope my sound is good.
Yes.
Thank you. Yeah, it can only be fair when everybody is honest about what is to be said and what can be shared. Of course, we also need to be careful. I think that what needs to be shared and what people want to hear and what they do not want to hear. So honesty is good, and but transparency in a way which can be limited to only that what really needs to be shared, and it's just as fair because everybody can just be ready for whatever comes. It's a fair communication, transparency. Thank you.
Right. Okay. Thank you, Sanem. Yeah, sometimes we have to be careful how much to communicate, but maybe that is where the line of transparency is crossed. And yeah, maybe that's what we are trying to explore and understand. But yes, fair communication, as you said. Yes, Manoj brother, you have to say something.
Gautami Behan, can you maybe share and then maybe Vidhi Behan after that? Because Gautami's sister also mentioned something in the chat box, which probably you didn't read it. That's okay. Maybe Sister Gautami, if you can unmute and share. If you don't want to on your video, that's fine. I'll just read it. I think she's
Yeah,
on.
I can see that on the chart. So Gautami sister, would you like to speak?
Because she's representing the entire Africa, Lagos. So it is good if you can share it. Okay. Anyway,
Shanti, thank you for the
Thank you.
opportunity. Actually, I'm not representing the whole of Africa. I always wish to be part of this gathering, but then, when I'm in the center, at the same time, there's so many tasks coming up, so I couldn't join. Now that I'm in London, I'm free. So I don't have center task or service like that. So I thought I made a point that I have to be part at this time, and the value which is being chosen, transparency, is so good. I myself am exploring about it.
so wonderful it's that you're a part of our team. So maybe you can share on transparency what you feel the advantages are. If you want to voice it, yeah.
Certainly, there is a lot of advantages in being transparent and truthful and honest and loyal. Many things are associated with transparency. And transparency, truth is incomplete without transparency. And honesty cannot be exercised without transparency. So transparency is innate part of many values. With transparency, you are free. You are not under any bondage. You are transparent, then you cannot be manipulated. But yes, we need courage to do that. At the same time, when we are transparent, we should choose right kind of words to be transparent. Just because I want to be transparent, I can't just be blunt. Transparency is different from being blunt. To be blunt is to be rude. Transparency is just that you have that concern to be clear.
Mhm. Thank you so much, Gautami sister. That's really beautiful. So that's what is resonating with what Sanem was sharing. So choosing positive and purposeful words, not giving sorrow or creating confusion in others. So in the name of transparency, it's a responsibility
Sure.
on us. Yeah.
Thank you.
Anybody else would like to share?
Yeah, sometimes you can find you express one idea. You may have many reasons for behind one idea, but transparency doesn't mean that you have to tell all the motivation and reason behind it, because you also allow people to find their own reason and motivation. So maybe I was saying retention and information, but to give the information, I don't give the retention of the information, but I'm not, I don't need to say all the reason behind it. It's good that people find them by themselves also, because we know that spiritual life is to do your own inner work to understand by yourself as well. So the balance in between no retention information, but not needed to say all the reason behind it. Okay, that's what I wanted to share. Yeah, Shanti.
Yeah, it's along the line that we have been discussing, that details how much information you want to give, all the motives or what you thought. I think from your sharing, it brings attention to the self in the spiritual growth, and let others, maybe we can tell according to the scenario, but then others have to discover or understand how much what they have to say. So I think we are, going a little bit into confusion. I don't know. So yeah, how much we can say and how much we don't say, but the aim is that purposeful, and it doesn't give sorrow to others, and it helps others to think and understand their scenario.
If all the reasons are positive, all the motivation are positive, there is no risk anyway. If there is a risk, we can say all the risk. But if there is no risk, we cannot say all the reason why is good. Maybe.
So I want to request everybody to switch off your audio, please, if you're not speaking. if you're not sharing. Yeah, if you like to share, please. Many people have unmuted. Would like to share. Please go ahead. Geeta, Sister Geeta, you want to share? Okay, Rehna.
Maria
start.
is with me after
Okay.
Sister. And go ahead, yeah.
Let's start with Maria, then Rehna, and then Geeta. Yes, Maria. Thank you. Maria, you like to unmute and speak? Share your point, your reflection. Not sure. So how about Rehna, please, if you can share?
Yeah, okay. So
Thank you.
one thing which is always transparent and will be always transparent is your energy and your vibration. And no matter how much, you mince your words or sugar-coated, the vibrations will always remain. So according to me, transparency means, it is not about too much information, which is not of any use to the other person, and it's just going to, create a trouble in their mind or thoughts or something. Transparency means if there is something, a common goal. Okay, so whatever is required to achieve that common goal, that has to be shared. So your personal details doesn't have to be, revealed to anyone because it's not of any use to anyone. So even with that, you have to be careful with your words, but the vibes will always speak. You can't hide.
Right. So again, too much information, not necessary. And how much you should speak according to the situation, the common goal, as you said, and good words, like what words you're choosing and how you are telling. Thank you, Rehna. I see on the chart, Sonia says honesty and trust, the advantages of being transparent, like having transparency. Subhas says no regret about past, right? If I am transparent, I'm honest with myself, starts with me, and honest in sharing as needed, as we are talking about, then we'll have no regret about that situation. Then also, yeah, Nisha says transparency helps our personal life and makes us strong. Linda says, what a beautiful explanation. Yeah. To maybe Gautami? Yes, thank you. Anyone else who would like to unmute and speak? I can read, but I would like you to speak up. That will be
I would
nice.
like to add,
We'll hear
yeah,
from you.
I would like to add, and we always hear it in the Murli. Baba always says, "Be tactful," and this is the most amazing word we can learn, because just one word, tactfulness, it clarifies everything. Because just by being tactful means, like, we need to choose the right words at the right moment, without giving any sorrow, without
Exactly.
taking any sorrow. And I think that comes with transparency. Thank you. Yukti.
Beautiful. Thank you. Yukti, yeah, tactful means sorrow is not exchanged. That's beautiful. We all can churn on that. Geeta Jumani, would you like to speak up? Speak, unmute and share your point, your sharing. So Geeta Jumani says transparency has core values, and it improves relationships, family, workplace, everywhere. Sometimes it may be difficult, but in the end, it's very important. Yeah, Sanem again shares. Yeah, Yukti, tactful. Lara says that Brother Manuel has translated in Portuguese. She's shared that the advantage of transparency is being able to reflect and act based on the truth. Yeah, how much can I be aligned with the truth according to the situation at that moment? Thank you, Lara. Sanem again says being an open communicator, honest and courageous, including every necessary information that needs to be shared, but not too many information. Right. So thank you so much for your sharings. We are almost reaching the time. If Deepak Bhai can show on screen. And also at the end, you all will be receiving this in the review materials. Yeah, choosing positive and purposeful words, and sorrow should not be given or taken, not exchanged. Trust, respect. We do not take people for granted. We do not do any rude behavior. And most important thing we discussed is that not details, not too much information is given. So Gautami again says that transparency is not to be detailed, but the purpose is not to hide and keep only that detail which brings clarity to the issues and increase harmony in relationships. It is innate part of purity, like clear water. Thank you, Gautami, and thank you, everyone. You will be receiving it in the review material. So I'll hand it over to Brother Manoj. Thank you.
Well, thank you so much. And also thanks to Sister Gautami for setting the tone. What she said, again, dot on, it is showing you in the picture. She mentioned lastly about clarity. You know, if there are transparent behaviors, clarity is a very important constituent for being transparent. And as you can see, this photo tells you everything. It's one of the transparent Dauki River in India. I think it's somewhere in the northeast. But you can see it's so amazingly beautiful and attractive if it is transparent. You can see through and through. And that's what, as a soul, I am. So let's begin this meditation. I will not share the music because it cuts my voice off. So let's take a deep breath in and out. And focus on the self, the beautiful, attractive soul energy that I am. And my intrinsic nature is being transparent and clear. And the moment I'm connected to the Supreme Soul, who is indeed the ocean of all these virtues, I fill myself with this wonderful sense of clarity and transparency. Supreme Being has given me this clear knowledge and understanding of who am I and how I should be in my interactions with other souls. My thoughts, words, and actions need to be transparent and coherent with each other. Whatever I think, I should be able to speak that out and also perform accordingly, which is being truly congruent with the self. And the more and more I realize this divine potential of being a clear soul, a true and a pure soul, my interactions with others also become pure, clear, and divine. And then I don't need to think about what to speak or what to do. Because powerful and so benevolent, having feelings of benevolence for everyone. that my purity and truth radiates through my transparent behavior. With this prelude, let us get ready for going into the action planning mode of what else can I do to enhance my transparent behaviors. So with this, we'll stop sharing the screen and over to Sister Shruti. Thank you.
Thank you, Manoj Bhai. So in the last exercise, it's very clear that most of us understand and have experienced people who have been transparent to us. Yet at the same time, we've also experienced people who have not been transparent. Manipulation, things when you can tell that there is some kind of impurity or some kind of pretense when you're interacting with people. And the other thing that really came through with all of our discussion was that transparency is linked to various other values, whether it's purity, whether it's honesty. So in this part of the workshop, as Manoj Bhai and others were mentioning, what we will do is focus now on what can I do to enhance transparency in my interpersonal relationships. So this is the time when we reflect on ourselves. What are some of the places where I still am not being clear, honest, truthful, or transparent in my interpersonal relationships? And what can I do to change that? So we'll take about a minute or so to reflect, and then we can come back to share. Seems like we are ready. Starting to see some chat messages come through. But before I read the chat messages, would anybody like to unmute and speak? We learn from each other. So please, we would love to hear from you. Yeah, please go ahead, Vidhi.
Yeah. First, Learn to express yourself fearlessly and clearly, and have trust on the others, trust on the other person, and it makes you more lighter. Yeah.
The courage to express, and that comes through trust. Very beautiful. Anybody else?
Yes.
Please
So
go
I
ahead,
think that the one person everyone has to be, absolutely transparent is with themselves and with God, because God is the only person who won't judge you. And what prevents a person from being transparent with others is the fear of judgment, because nobody likes to be judged or criticized. So if someone is trying to tell me about themselves, which is not very pleasant and which might cause a flutter in my mind, so I have to be careful not to give a response which might further upset the person. So, and if I am being transparent, because being transparent has its benefits, like, if it's like if somebody is intoxicated, okay, they are high on toxic substances, they won't know that they are doing something wrong. The others will know. So if I share my weaknesses with others, I might get judged or criticized. So if someone is telling me, I had to be careful not to, add on to that feeling. And if someone is judging me, okay, so I have to raise my self-esteem to such a high level that I am not affected by whatever judgment and criticism I'm receiving from the other. So God is the best person, because he gives answers in such a way that in Hindi we say "Sambi mare or lathi bhi na tote." So the work gets done and nobody is harmed and nobody is hurt. So if I can be that way in at least some percentage, then I will. Okay, it's a win-win situation for me.
Very nice, very nice. Transparency again linked to so many other intricate values and concerns such as judgment. And I think that's a beautiful way of describing what you just did, Sister Rana. Judging others, feeling judged. How do you manage that? Very nice. Anybody else?
Yeah, I was thinking that maybe there is a parallel in between transparency and my own self-progress, because more I'm progressing, more I can express myself as I am. And I was thinking that if someone becomes by chance completely pure, which I mean, few people can achieve that, then they don't even think about being transparency. Whatever they are, it's transparent. So they will not even think about it. So obviously it's a very high end and not many will achieve it, but it's good to keep it. Shanti.
That's again a very nice point, that it just becomes natural. It's not something you're really thinking about. Very nice. Anybody else? Yeah, I can start reading some of the chat messages. I'll be selective to begin with. Transparency. Oh no, I think this was an earlier message. Depth is innate character of purity, and transparency inspires to be fearless in exploring and increasing the depth of the self. Deep down, we find our true self, complete and perfect form of the self. So deep down, we're truly complete in self. That's what Gautami sister is saying. Gita Gita is saying transparency is crystal clear. Thoughts, opinions, advice, plans, so that it benefits everyone for Kalyan or benefit of our family, office, society, country, and world. Jayanti says, sometimes I withhold being transparent because it may hurt the other person. Gautami again says, decluttering the self with frequent moments of silence. Christina says something in Portuguese. Brother Manuel, I need your help there. Sandhya says, trust and being trustworthy, similar to what a few others also mention. Attitude of sharing and caring for each other makes one transparent. And then Subhash mentions better understanding and self-confidence can enhance transparency. Beautiful. Would anybody else like to unmute and share? We still have a few minutes.
This can be so subtle also, and I would love to share this. As it was said, it all starts with the self. Uh, just to be honest with the self, transparent with the self is the first step. Because only when we are honest with the self and trusting the self, um, only in that way we attract all those people who also are transparent and such. So when we lie, we attract liars, and yeah, and so on. Thank you.
Very nice. So it starts with the self. So if I'm practicing, I attract similar kind of souls. Very nice. I have a couple more chat messages, but if anybody else would like to unmute. While you're deciding on that one, Anuban says, I'll practice being. Oh, yes, please go ahead, Dr. Mehta.
Transparency is being truthful. Whatever is in your heart, you say exactly what you feel. Express your feeling honestly, honest to yourself, without hurting anybody.
Very nice. Again, the link to honesty, and I think that's something that a lot of people can resonate with. Anybody else? So in the chat, Anuban says, I'll practice being honest and congruent with my truth, that is soul, being non-judgmental to others, and share words and information as per the need of each occasion. Sarabjit says, transparency also relates with Baba's Murli, or divine spiritual readings that are prevalent or that we use in Brahma Kumaris, that our divine intellect or our intellect should be clean and clear. Very nice. Anybody else? We have another minute or so. Okay, if not, Deepak Bhai, would you like to share the summary? Thank you. Again, we got several points. Depth is an innate character of purity and transparency, and that's what inspires us to be fearless in exploring. And when we do go deep, we find our true, complete self and our perfect form. Transparency is being crystal clear in our thoughts, opinions, advice, and plans so that it benefits everyone, our family, society, office, country, world. Sometimes sometimes it's good to withhold being transparent because it might hurt the other person. Decluttering the self with frequent moments of silence. Courage to express and trust others. Transparency is not about judging others, and we talked plenty about that. But how, if others judge, it's about me raising my self-esteem and at the same time making sure I never judge anybody. And if there's anything, build the relationship with God, because that's the only place where you can have your true judgment. Trust and be trustworthy. An attitude of sharing and caring for each other also makes one transparent. Being transparent is being progressive and it comes naturally. Better understanding and self-confidence can enhance transparency. Honest with self and trust in oneself. Be truthful, starting with ourselves. Practice being honest, congruent with my truth. Be non-judgmental to others and share words and information as per the need of the occasion. Transparency also relates with God's versions or spiritual readings, that the intellect should be clean and clear. Wonderful sharing, everyone. Thank you so much. And I think I'll hand it back to Manoj Bhai.
Okay, so thank you so much. And let me be transparent now. Again, I'm not trying to hurt anyone, but I just want to request that in future, the action planning exercise is all about what am I supposed to do in future? Because what I saw, the responses were all about still trying to explore what is transparency. So we wanted to know what can I do in my action planning or at a doing level, maybe at a thought level as well. So what can I do to enhance that? So there were a few responses like being courageous, being truthful, being honest. It's a mix of all virtues. So we can just be like more specific about action planning rather than trying to go in the what is the meaning of transparency. So I just thought I'll be transparent in sharing that with you all. Hope you all didn't mind. Thank you so much. And again, if there are new people who have joined here for the first time, it will be good if you can share your email addresses and your WhatsApp numbers so that we can put you on our emailing list and also on the WhatsApp group which we have. Okay, so with this, we just move on to, as always, the session review of what we had. Two senior Rajyogis from different parts of USA covering all their wisdom on transparency. So let's begin. So again, it rocks. Honesty rocks always because the virtue of honesty is the one which is very similar to transparency. And if you all Google the word transparency, which I tried to do, you get these three words coming up glaringly at you. First is opacity. All are actually very related to medical terms as well. We use that in our medical jargon, but that's totally off. What I'm trying to say is opacity, translucency, and transparency. And for some reason, Sister Wadi said that. So opacity, we know it's opaque behaviors where you're trying to just withhold information or you're pretending something we know opaque. We know transparency as well, that through and through. In Hindi, we say pardarshi, where you can just see through and I know what is in your mind, something like that. Whereas Sister Wadi mentioned that translucency is when you're not ready to show yourself. I mean, you're withholding back again. You're not opaque, but you're just not comfortable of sharing about yourself. So that's what she mentioned. I like that it was translucency. And we should never be, because that's what we always withhold our things because we are afraid of public opinion or getting people's judgment on that. And we are afraid of that. And we are ashamed of some aspect of ours. So we try to hide that. And this is again Sister Wadi Sister Wadi mentioned, I just love this, that I am with me all the time. I need to remember this, that I have to be with myself all the time. So might as well be truthful to the self, at least, if not to others. I'll come on the third slide after this. She mentioned about the different me's which we are, me, M-E, the real me, will come to that later. And I have to carry whatever big baggage I have with me throughout eternity. I'm not with anyone else. I am with me forever. So say my karmic accounts, my sanskars, my actions, all have to go with me. So I have to be very careful about that. And therefore it is best to be transparent. And she said that when the soul has the Supreme's light, it is impossible to not see their potential, like someone else's potential and us as well. And why are we not transparent? A few thoughts she mentioned is because of past trauma, because of hurt which we had from people, disrespect from them, disappointment from many people. And also sometimes we are not transparent with the self. I have highlighted that in red because we have become hopeless with the self. I don't know whether it was today's Murli, today's class in the morning, or it was the Avyak signal somewhere. I think it was Avyak signal today's. It was about how souls have become hopeless. And the Supreme Being really is the one who can take us out from this being of hopelessness into a lot of full of hope and faith and trust. And he also mentioned there, the Supreme Being, that if you can do that for people, you can become a peacemaker. You earn the prize of being peacemaker. It was lovely the way he speaks to us in the Avyak signals as well. Then coming on to various roadblocks which we all have discussed quite a bit in details. We have discussed the other aspect also, that why people don't want to be transparent. So the thing is, because I think lacking is spirituality. The more and more I am full of spiritual knowledge, God gives me a direction and I can really become crystal clear with people. And we don't know what people's challenges are. People are really going through a lot in these tough times. So we should not be disregarding the challenge which they are going through. And they may not necessarily want to share their life burden. So we need to respect that as well. The most important way to do that is extreme humility. That's what she mentioned. And she also mentioned, I think Sister Jenna mentioned, that nothing that you can't do. You have the ability to make the impossible possible. So let us try to be that peace messenger for people with extreme humility. Try to understand what they are going through. And even if they are not transparent, let's accept them as they are. And they went on to mention that if you're feeling a sense of low self-worth, unloved, devalued, or unseen as a person for self, you need to do some work on yourself and see that God is seeing you completely from a different angle. He doesn't see you from the present state which you are in, the very tamo pradhan stage, or a very devalued or demoralized stage. So let me just start changing my eye towards myself and look at the self with that pure, positive, elevated vision which God is seeing me through. And then I can really help me overcome my roadblocks with transparency. These are a few things which I mentioned before that, the real me. So here she mentioned, Sister Wadi, that there are these three me's. It starts with the public me, the private me, and the secretive me. So we know that we try to portray ourselves in public differently. In our private lives, we are different, we know. But then even in our private life, we have many secrets, which maybe even our family members don't know about. So let's try to sort of, they mention, pass through, let go of these me's, come to the real me. Who am I? The beautiful, sparkling soul. And that's the reason she mentioned that in Hindi we say Pardarshi. You know, par is to look through and through. And Darshi also means to see, but Darshi in English, it translates to the future as well, as we are taught here about Trikal Darshi, looking at the three aspects of time. So look into your future, be so transparent with yourself that you can see your future very clearly. Then the third line, which is mentioned here, it's a rhyming sort of a poem that now is showing the weakest me, not the one I like to be. So all of us go through this, like we know we have a lot of weaknesses. We really don't want to be in that position. But once we realize who the real me is, then all this just fizzles out. Also, the more and more we start meditating, it gives us a lot of permission and time to check our dirt. That's what she mentioned, that I can then see what is inhibiting in me not to become transparent. Transparency also allows us to apply the power of discrimination. Like, I will then have clarity in my thoughts of what is good for me and what not, and what is not. It allows me to let go of people's behaviors, people's attitudes, and what they are going through. And also in the question answer, this will come again, but I'll just cover it here. Just Jenna mentioned this. Don't take things personally. Whatever people say, it's okay. It is their opinion. Let me depersonalize myself from that. And this is the reason which I was mentioning before, that we are not able to be our own self. It will come later in the form of gender identification disorders. So don't take things personally. They are saying, but they are not saying it to you. They are just saying it from their glasses, which means from their perception. So the last point is, people see you through their glasses of perception. You don't have to worry too much about that. So let go and don't take it so personally. And you're the master. This is another we call point of Swaman, or the point of self-respect. That means I am the master, the creator. And it's sort of impossible. And there's no word called impossible. Everything is possible for me to attain. But again, though I'm independent as a master, but I should not be manipulative. So I need to really draw this line, that though I'm a master, but not manipulate others with my mastery. Because sometimes on the path of spirituality, I'll give you an example, that we know we have the knowledge and we feel this, we are good. we are connected to the Supreme, we do a lot of yoga and all that, and then we start preaching people that, you should not be doing this, that. So that is in one way manipulating people, because we can't be doing that. Let them have their own say, and let's not look at their weaknesses. And this is a beautiful word which I like. She said, if I put it at a separate point, your conscience will start chopping on you if you are deviant. So if there's anything which is not the congruence which we are discussing, the harmony of thought, word, and action, my conscience will bite me. She used the word chop on me. Biting and chopping is a big difference. I feel biting sounds a bit better, but chopping, it can chop you off. That's what we have to be aware of. Therefore, it needs checking, and checking constantly at every point. And in this world, so Sister Jenna mentioned the third point, that we are continuously evolving and growing. We are not the same as yesterday. Every day is a new day, and we will not be tomorrow the same as we are in the present. And the world is continuously changing outside as well. So all of us have to reach this place of self-acceptance and transparency in order to protect oneself, more important, and loved ones. So let this time together be of some great value, and particularly all these discussions which we are having on so many values. It's amazing. It's been a 4-year journey which we have done. We are on 94th, and it gives a chance for each one of us to introspect, so that it gives us time for transformation, that what I am still lacking in myself. These are few quotes which both of them had to say. Sister Wadi mentioned this. There's translucence, the idea of some light going through. And again, translucence means, yes, I realize I am good, but I'm not able to share with other people what really I am. So that's some light going through. And there's transparency where the light is able to shine through and through with no barriers in between. So we need to be not translucent, but transparent. And Sister Jenna had to mention that there can be a struggle in your gradual journey towards transparency, but that struggle is good, as it says, I want to be free, right? We'll be covering this. I think we have covered the value of freedom in the past and independence. A few questions quickly. Should a doctor be transparent with a terminally ill patient or reveal the details step by step? So it depends with every patient. That's what they say. And it's more important, as Sister Radha also mentioned, it's my energy. If I am really a very pure and truthful person, my energy which will be conveyed to the patient, even harsh realities will be taken appropriately, and they would not mind you being transparent with them. As I mentioned about GID, gender identification disorders, so someone had asked if my adolescent child is being transparent and has problems with the identification of the gender. So how do I deal with this? Because probably as a parent, I am being very disturbed with this news. So again, soul consciousness is the answer here. Look at the child as a soul. I am also a soul, nothing beyond that. And this child is not mine. I am just a trustee. It is God's child. So I should support, and I should really actually be with him or her for his entire journey, because he's going through a tough time. I'm not having GID, he's having. So I should be in this tough time with him and support him fully. And the practice of soul consciousness really helps us a lot in this, and it helps us remove judgment and increase our compassion towards the other person. Is transparency created or invoked? It could be either ways. I'll go on to the next question, which I was mentioning about let's depersonalize the things. How do we not take the people's remarks personally? So for this, you have to practice the Raj Yoga meditation. I would request people who are new to this workshop, and if you want to delve into this journey of self-realization and trying to really practice what we call detachment, and as I mentioned before, be more transparent and not take comments personally, and don't feel so bad not to take it personally. For that detachment, can come more and more, you start practicing soul consciousness. And again, when we say detachment, we don't mean to say getting cut off from people, but it's about living in the same house, working at the same workplace, but being detached from people's behaviors, people's erratic behaviors, particularly because the good behaviors don't hurt us, the erratic ones do. I think I should just take the last slide. Yeah. Difference between transparency, innocence, and naivety. So innocence is where we are trying to get back to, again, full of wisdom. Naivety is when you're not really aware of something at all. Transparency is basically a value. It will be there when there is no innocence. You have to understand the meaning of this. Innocent means being completely naive about not knowing the past, present, future, whereas transparent is you're knowing about all three aspects the more and more you meditate. And then you are very careful, you pick and choose what you're speaking, though you're transparent. You're not hiding, but you pick and choose. And last thing was don't be sugarcoating, don't be sugar-coated in dealings with people, because be sensitive to what they are feeling and then tell them. And again, soul consciousness helps. If my energy is good, whatever I say won't hurt them. Right. So let me just stop sharing the screen, and we have our two beautiful souls again today with us. If you can just highlight them, spotlight them, I mean, and let me just introduce both of them as well. Thank you so much for joining, Sister Antonella and Sister Radha. You all are not new to our audience, but it's my right to introduce both of you again to our audience. And first, let's start with Sister Antonella. She is truly Italian, born in Tuscany, and she came into, Brahma Kumaris incidentally in Japan in 1988. And also she studied Oriental language as well and culture. And while studying at the university, she also established and ran a successful fashion business in Sardinia, which is south of Italy. And she has been involved in opening and also managing various BK centers of Milan, Olivia, and Bologna. Bologna is where she currently is. And she's also the main organizer of 4 international forums of spirituality and arts in Sardinia. And also we had this Living Values project. She had promoted that very actively in Italy. She is very much the member of the NCT, that is the national coordinating team we have all over the world. And she's written 3 books on spirituality and recorded many guided meditations, I'm sure, in the language of Italian. And she is in Bologna, and she's still teaching communication in a school and negotiation skills in trade unions. So this is about her. And then we have Sister Radha. Again, she's based in Rome, Italy. She was introduced to Raj Yoga. She's given me a very brief bio about her, so I don't know much about her that way. But I'll try to cover whatever 4 lines she sent. That in her childhood in India, where she grew up. So she's very much Indian, body-wise, and she deepened her practice in UK and subsequently in Italy, where now she currently coordinates the activities of the center in the capital city, Rome itself, and together with her professional work, where she is based at a Rome-based United Nations agency. She actively, both of them still work. So as always, a poem on the value of transparency, and for both of them. So both the sisters exhibit in their interactions a lot of transparency, thereby maintaining relationships with utmost decency. You can approach them freely without any hesitancy and can share with them openly without any precipitancy. That's because spirituality has taught them this efficiency, which portrays perfection and leaves no chance of any deficiency. You'll see through their actions, they teach us how to get rid of complacency so that we don't end up having spiritual bankruptcy. It is only by remembering the divine with a lot of frequency, which means a lot of times, that we can experience in our life a lot of abundancy. life which otherwise gives a feeling of redundancy, with the Supreme's touch, gets converted into utmost proficiency. And in my mind, well, proficiency is our next value. So over to both of you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Brother Manoj. And first of all, a big appreciation for these kind of events that stimulate all of us to churn. So great job. And I'm so happy to be with all of you and together with Radha, which is my dear sister. We are in the same country. So Radha, first basic easy question, what's transparency for you?
Yeah, first of all, thank you very much, Dr. Manoj Bhai and everyone else present as well. And it's also really nice to be here again and in a different way, this time with a conversation. So with Antonella, which is great. So yeah, actually this topic is something that has been close to my heart, in fact, and has come up even in recent years as something to think about and to reflect on. And I looked at, actually, I find it quite interesting. So I looked up in the dictionary, what is transparency? And I found a very, very beautiful definition of it, where it says it's the quality of allowing light to pass through so that objects behind can be distinctively seen. And so to me, transparency is really allowing myself to be seen or allowing an aspect, a process or something to be clearly visible. So in other words, not hiding or blocking or avoiding, but just letting something be very, very clear. And of course, there are many, many different aspects about transparency. But just to start off with that definition as being very close to clarity, allowing the light of truth or of knowledge to pass through without any obstructions, because there are no obstructions. And so that's the condition of being transparent. So, and what about you, Antonella? What did you see as transparency?
Yeah, it's actually a very interesting topic, especially because we live in a world where transparency is really rare. So common to hide things, have a second agenda, cheating. I don't know in your countries, but here it's very common. And it has become normal. So talking about transparency is like talking about big, huge, special topic. For me, transparency means the light is on. Often in souls, the light is off. And transparency begins when I switch the light on, and the journey begins towards the true self, towards me. It's incredible that we live. That was my first thoughts when I started to learn about Raja Yoga. And I came to know I'm a soul, something simple. But I thought I remember thinking, gosh, I live, I am, and I don't know who I am. So to go back to the awareness of and revealing myself to myself, because that's the biggest adventure. If I can reveal myself to myself, and of course to people, and that's transparency, and not pretending to be something else that I'm not. And it's so valuable, and so freeing to be you and nobody else, and not pretending, in other words. And here we have a saying that to be open like a book, to be like an open book. that means people can see through you and can see clearly your intention. And I think this is such a valuable interconnection between people when you can see their intention, they can see your intention, and that's transparency. And the opposite actually is to be opacity. I don't know if I pronounce it properly. And opacity means it's like when the water is murky, a lot of mud and dirt, and you can't see through. And the lack of cleanliness in that case is like the amount of layers that block the light to go through from me outside and from outside within. So, and I think within time, for half a cycle, we've been building up layers of blockages, of mud, of whatever, that are not allowing my true light to shine out, and vice versa. And everything has become very foggy. And that's why in relationship, there are so many misunderstandings. Sometimes using words can, create even more problems. And that's an indicator of how foggy we became, how dusty we became. And I'm so grateful to Baba for the immense value of knowledge. I think transparency is actually included in all the 4 subjects that Baba gives us. Knowledge, understanding the truth, and truth, being truthful, is transparency. And we are getting ready, preparing ourselves for the age of truth, Sati. Actually, I remember being in London many years ago at the beginning of my journey, and Gentiban was giving a class, and she asked, we were not many people there, and she asked, how do you visualize, how do you see a deity? And I remember replying, transparent, a transparent being. And then she asked me, checking if I was meaning invisible, she asked me, what do you mean about transparency? And I replied, and I still remember, interesting, I replied, they are so clean in and out, that there is no difference between what I am and what I express and what people see. So fully clean and pure. And that's, for me, was the understanding of transparency. And so through knowledge, this is what we become. And yoga, a transparent connection with God, with a sincere heart. I cannot fake with God. It will be extremely silly. So I can only be true to my Father. And Dharna is the integrity in action. I find the integrity is very much connected with transparency and service. A honest heart in the way I use my energy and my resources. That's the quality of service that I can do for Baba and for the family. So just few thoughts about transparency, but then I can ask Radha, what are the qualities that you think are connected with transparency? Because transparency is a container, like so many qualities, as you shared before in your beautiful sharing earlier. Transparency is like a container, many qualities are included. So Radha, what qualities do you see within transparency?
Yeah, thank you, Antonella. Very interesting story also about how naturally you were able to just perceive transparency even at the beginning of your spiritual journey. And I was thinking just actually how transparency is really like a condition, one of the natural conditions, which maybe is very much connected with purity, actually, thinking about it, that it's possible to be transparent only when there is that purity, which is of course, one of the main qualities of our original condition. Um, and so certainly that's one thing. I was also thinking then that, however, it's a whole other subject to be transparent with other people, And so that's where the quality of honesty comes in, is am I able to, use that, I don't know, also the humility to acknowledge that at the moment, maybe there isn't that original condition of purity or transparency. And so therefore, I can be honest and humble to be able to realize that that is my journey, that I'm working towards that full transparency. And was also thinking that to be transparent, maybe especially for other people, especially in a group, in a group setting, or with some friends or with colleagues, then I need to have a lot of sensitivity, so that I need to know when is the right moment, when to be transparent, when to be, in a sense, to be silent, when to step forward, when to step back, because I think that it's one of these qualities that needs to be balanced. And we'll maybe look at that later, but certainly one other thing about transparency is that we need to be fearless, or have courage, really, because of the same thing, that to actually allow the light of truth to shine inside means that I'm going to see, and maybe other people are going to see, that part of me that is not so beautiful, is not so shining, or that is opaque. And to be able to, do I have the courage to see that? First of all, look at that, and to let God's light look in, to let God's eye look at me. And so to make myself so completely visible to God as well. Of course, which means then, as I think Antonella was saying as well, it means that we make ourselves visible to ourselves. And so I think in terms of transparency with other people, it's about having a cleanliness of intent. So why would I, be open or honest about something to someone? I need to ask myself, what's my intention behind this? Am I just trying to show something? Sometimes it's easy also to try to look good, to look like, yes, I'm telling you, I'm trusting you. But actually, is that really what's going on? And so the purity of intent, I think, is very important, is that I can really check and see what is my intention for sharing something. And I like very much this acronym, actually, the acronym of think before I say something that's maybe important, or I know that's going to have an impact. Maybe you've come across this acronym, but T is for, is it truthful, to ask myself, is it true? Is it helpful? Is it interesting? Is it necessary? And is it kind? So this is THINK. So think before you speak, and especially because otherwise, there's no need to be transparent if there isn't something to be transparent about, because in our original condition, it's so normal just to, there's nothing to hide. But it's when there is a lot of corruption and a lot of hidden agenda and old patterns that we need to practice, I think, being transparent and in that sense where it's not just plain honesty, but it's the transparency with wisdom and with the ability to discern. So I don't know, what about you? Were they the same qualities that you saw, Antonella, or were they different ones?
You made a wonderful list of qualities. I was also thinking of honesty very much. It sounds very appropriate, and integrity, sincerity, authenticity. I think they're all very related to. It seems that is a big container. And I agree that when there is a lack of honesty, for example, then we tend to blame other people, like, because of you, I feel like that. And then, of course, transparency is gone. It's like honesty for me is not responding to people's mistake with other mistakes. So if I respond to a mistake with a mistake, then I'm lacking that responsibility that will make me transparent. Taking my own responsibility is a mean to become transparent. And in terms of practice, like how can I become more transparent, more honest in a way, and therefore more humble, more responsible, more fearless, all the wonderful qualities that you mentioned. In my experience, when something happened, instead of hunting for a guilty one, which is, it could happen, use that situation to settle karma. I really value the law of karma enormously, because I think at the end of the cycle, unless we clean and clear karma, we won't be able to reach the goal properly. And so if I understand the situation, interpret it as a settle of karma, and I watch which sanskara are moving me in the wrong direction within a reaction, or hunting the guilty one, then I can be in control, more in control of myself, and churning the opposite virtue that I need to improve. So for me, the practice of churning, I find it essential, but churning specifically the opposite virtue of the sanskara that is acting wrongly and making me doing something wrong. And because being honest with the self implies that I take my own responsibility. And when I take my own responsibility and I finish there, like I stop there, what do I do with that burden? And I can become depressed or discouraged or hopeless. But if I use the churning power to churn, right, I've got these bad sanskara and old sanskara, it's not me, it's something that I acquired, but what's the virtue behind? And then I become busy in the right direction, in the right way. It's like shifting my energy in a mindset that will build strength. And it's difficult to be transparent and being weak. If I'm weak, I will never be transparent. I cannot manage. So if I want to be transparent, I need to be strong. And strength is built inside myself through, for me, through yoga, of course, but through churning also. Understanding deeply what is going on and what is the real me and the beauty of myself, really deeply, eternally. and my eternal strength. And therefore I become economical. And honesty is a way of being economical. I'm not wasting too many thoughts in thinking what people are doing and what they are not doing. So becoming economical, it's an aspect of honesty, and therefore it's an aspect of transparency. And if I use everything I have as a trustee, and I think that that was also something that Wadi and Jenna last week mentioned. If I use everything as a trustee, then I make it worthy, and that kind of honesty will lead to abundance. And when I feel the abundance of everything, it's like feeling protected. And if I feel protected, I can be transparent because I don't fear challenges. When we close and we are not open, transparency is being open. But when we close inside and down because of fear, but if I feel protected and safe, and abundance gives me that feeling, then I can be transparent. I have nothing to lose. Actually, in transparency, I don't lose anything. I'm only gaining trust from people. I'm only gaining goodness. And therefore, the practice
So,
here.
Antonella,
Yep.
No, sorry, Antonella, just to ask you as well, do you think you can be, or one can be too transparent? Is there something that would balance it out? What do you think would be some of the things that keep transparency in balance?
If I think of golden age, there is nothing at the other side of transparency because that's a state. It's a condition of being. But now, at the confluence age, the perspective is a bit different. Like if I become too transparent when I'm not fully pure, I can be hurting, or I can be too showing. I don't know, I can be too vulnerable. And maybe I'm not ready for that vulnerability. So at the other side of the scale, if we think of a scale of the balance of virtues, then vulnerability is one side, on the other side is discernment. And because I need to see where I'm at and where people are at around me, because I cannot be fully on board if people will mislead or misuse what I'm sharing. So just discernment, I think, that will prevent damages, emotional damages at some point. At least that has been my experience. But what is for you on the other side of transparency in terms of a positive opposite?
Yes, I also think discernment and maybe connected with that is wisdom, which is really applied knowledge. Because I think that we can come to that balance by asking questions like, what or how much does someone need to know in order to make a complete decision, in order to have the information they need so that they can respond, in a balanced way, or they can, they can make a response that's in a way fair, or shall we say, accurate. And I think this is where it's interesting because we had a recent experience as well where there was some big change in one of the situations within the country, and which is quite long and complicated, and was continuing for a number of years, actually. And then at one point, the whole thing, the situation changed. So it, in a sense, it ended. And so, of course, we needed to, we realized that we needed to share something with the family, with the rest of the BKs in the country. And so I found that it was a very interesting exercise to actually find that balance between giving the information and not going into the details that are going to create a lot of waste thoughts, but not giving any untruths either. And so I found that it was a very very interesting and very, the way I saw it, was a very successful experiment on being able to balance transparency with discernment and with wisdom and with sensitivity somehow. I think that all of that needs to be the ingredients. And I liked very much what you were saying, that you need the balance now in the confluence age, or at this time when we're coming back to balance. Whereas when it's a natural condition, of course, we don't need any balance. And certainly transparency is one of the, as I was mentioning earlier, I think it's very much connected with purity. And so, yes, that's very interesting. And maybe also, just another question is, like you were suggesting, you were mentioning earlier, how to come back to that transparency within the self, but also maybe in terms of relationships. What do you think, whether it's a service relationship, working relationship, or the people that maybe one lives with, what do you think are some of the things that can help us to be transparent, to the right degree, shall we say, in those, in particular within relationships?
Yeah. Something that comes in my mind is integrity, which is an incredible energy, like strong integrity is like, it's not being corruptible. Integrity for me means that I'm not corruptible, and therefore I stop compromising my principle and using the currency of love and pure feelings. I think it touches us very much every time that in the Murli there is the point of having pure feelings and good wishes for everyone. And what more transparent than that? If I can clean my heart at such a level that the currency of love is the only currency I use. And that's the process of really getting ready to be an angel, who only use that currency. And apart from integrity and not being corruptible in a world that is totally corrupt, that's why I think at the end it will be so visible, the difference between those who have been working on the self and those who didn't. Because it's like the light that will shine through people that are working on their own integrity and not becoming corrupt in any form, in any way, will be enormous. And also sincerity, to be without masks, sincere, without walks, so without any mask. I don't know if you remember the Living Values period, when within the manual of the living values, there was a story. I don't remember much because there's so many years went by, but I do remember this story. Can I share it? It's a very short story, but I love them. And it's the story of a king that called the notice to find the heir to the throne. He had no son or daughter. So he called everyone to the court and gave them a seed, saying that in 1 month later, whoever brought the vase with the most beautiful flower would become the heir to the throne. So there was a young girl that was very enthusiastic, like everyone, of course, and she planted the seed with a lot of love, but nothing came out. So disappointed, 1 month later, when everybody were going to the court, she went with the pot was just full of soil and nothing sprout. But she decided to go anyway. And there were many beautiful flowers, colorful, presented to the king, who admired everything with a lot of respect and great joy. But then she called this young girl with her empty pot and declared her the heir to the throne, because she was the only one that revealed herself to be honest and sincere, because all the seeds were toasted, so unable to germinate. So she was the only one sincere. And I love this story because often we fear being sincere, like telling the truth, being honest, being transparent could lead, that's the idea, to a loss, while eventually transparency and truthfulness will only lead to gain. And this, I think, is something to remember. I can only gain through being transparent, through being sincere. And whatever happens, I'm not going to lose. At least I'm not losing my dignity, which is the biggest value I have. And it's like surrender the pride or the selfishness to honesty, to sincerity, knowing that greatness will surrender to me. And it's like choosing a front. Which front am I choosing? An immediate gain or a long-lasting gain? And transparency is very clear about which front is going to choose. One practice that I can share, and then I will ask you, Radha, to share practice also, is that instead of judging and becoming a judge, to sit silently in front of the mirror of my own consciousness and review whatever has been happening in the relationship, because the main field where we can pretend and lack of honesty or whatever, not being very transparent, that big field is relationship. So instead of judging within those relationships, to sit silently in front of the mirror of my own consciousness and review what hurted me, and to change their frame of mind, their mindset, that has been not really facilitating my growth, and replace it. And it's a specific exercise. I will see myself acting in the right way instead of the wrong way, and I keep replaying the image, that photogram, I don't know how to call it, in my mind, so that I shift it, I replace it. And I find this very useful, because if I play in my mind the film of what I like to be, I actually re-evoke from inside what I actually am, and facilitate the inner quality to emerge. Do you have any practice to share, Radha, to become more transparent and humble? Radha is very humble by nature. It's a real quality. So she can share something important about that.
I think it's your vision, Antonella. But anyway, we're all work in progress in that subject, I think. But yes, I mean, I also very much connect with the conscience. So the conscience as that voice that I go to ask, do I have the best interests of this person or that person or myself or God? Do I have the best interests in my heart when I'm doing a particular action or giving a particular response? Then it's like this checking, and I think that's what it is in the silence, is to check and take the time to stop and look. Because often when things happen, and I think that this is something also to consider, that how do I deal with being at the receiving end of a lack of transparency? So one thing is me being transparent with someone, maybe me being in a position of making decisions or coordinating things. But what about when I'm at the receiving end and I'm not told the whole story? Or sometimes it happens in the workplace, is that often that's the decisions are made at a higher level and they filter down, and everyone has to follow that, with whether they like it or not. And often the very normal response is bitterness or discontentment, a lot of gossip and complaints, and that's of course the normal response. And of course, when I see that happening, I ask myself, what is my response in all of that? And especially in the workplace as well, as Manoj mentioned, that I'm still in this, big office environment. And so it's a big bureaucratic machinery where this kind of thing often happens. And to me, it's like trusting that I will find the best solution and that what needs to happen will happen. Somehow the trust of the benefit of the way things are going. So it doesn't just mean a kind of a blind acceptance, but because it might also mean making some decisions that, okay, so if this is the situation which I can't change, then I am going to put a boundary, and this is my position. And so I think it's also important when I'm at the receiving end of a lack of transparency to decide what is my position, under the circumstances. So without complaining or getting bitter or wanting them to change or they should tell us, often there's that kind of feeling. But it's like, okay, that's the situation. Where am I? What is my place? What are going to be my choices? And that's where I think trusting the self, and I think in fact this word trust maybe hasn't yet come up in the context of transparency, is that I think we can't demand transparency from other people, but it needs to come through the basis of some level of trust. And if the trust is not there, then at least one side needs to have the vulnerability to take the risk, to be transparent, a little bit transparent, so that, and test out, the group or the side or whatever is going on. And so in that, when I'm at the receiving end of a lack of transparency, I think that, okay, so what can I do to build the trust? Or at least what can I do to not break it down further? So it's sometimes that's the starting point. And so yes, for me the most important practice is listening to my conscience, checking in with myself, and again checking my intention, and realizing that in fact, if I want to be a companion and a trustee in service with God, then if I have the best interests of other people, then that is what will bring about the best outcome, whatever it looks like. So it's interesting to notice that as well.
Yeah, I fully agree with the idea of trust. Such an incredible energy. And you made me think of a situation that I had to deal with a professional liar. Do you know any professional liar? Chronic liar. It's an interesting personality traits. And if this person would say lies, even when it was not necessary, just because it is a sanskara. So somebody that's been lying many, many times and has become a sanskara, he will lie even when he doesn't need it. And the feeling I had was being not valued because of being cheated, understanding that it was a lie and there were many lies. And then I realized that that person was deeply hurt from childhood with a violent and abusive father. And he was actually protecting himself due to the fear he developed from childhood. So the sanskara of denying, falsifying information was very strong and led him to saying lies all the time. So the response at the receiving end, as you said, was just to try to understand the root of that and the hurt, the one that was behind, and thinking I can trust this person because only trusting it will provide strength. It's like empowering the other soul through giving trust. And so in many cases, the feeling was, I trust you, I believe in you, I appreciate you, and not accusing, not blaming, but giving the strength to reinforce the soul. And within time, I saw the attitude of lying reducing a lot. Still there, but much, much less. So I think trust is an incredible way of empowering people and remaining safe within the self. Because I protect myself in a way when I trust myself and people. So it's such a very much connected with transparency.
In fact, interesting. You mentioned this thing about the lying and the protecting. Because yes, I think what came up in the last conversation with Sister Wadi and Jenna is that it's not about being naive. So when we when we hear someone who's not being transparent, and we recognize that, I think it's about, yes, recognizing it, knowing it, but without falling into the trap of blaming and judging, or criticizing rather, and yet at the same time seeing, like you were saying, that there's some reason, there's some fear behind why someone is not able to let the light shine through them and make themselves visible. That there is some hurt or some suffering that's stuck in there. And so maybe that vision of benevolence might help them to open out and to help them feel safe enough to put forward themselves in a clean and clear way. And I think maybe that's part of our task, isn't it? To help people to be that, and especially people who maybe aren't that as a natural, practice for themselves, which is maybe the majority of all of us, really. And little by little, that's what God is doing for us, is through his benevolences, helping us to be so transparent, like this pure, clear water. And we have so many examples, of course, in front of us. But yes, so the relationship between benevolence and transparency, I think it's very interesting.
That's right.
Mm.
And also when we are transparent, we can touch people's heart, which is a great service. And I remember a phrase that stuck because it's really beautiful, that says, they will love you not because you are perfect, but because you are true. So, and I think also being detached is very much part of transparency, because the more I clean myself and I reach the purest part of me, the original part of me, that detachment will lead to transparency.
Mm.
And this time in Madhuban, I came back with a very specific, determined thought. That was to practice the 1 second rule. In 1 second, I go beyond. In 1 second, I become bodiless. In 1 second, I become silent. Anything that I want to practice connected with 1 second. And I think that detachment is essential to become and keep becoming transparent, and knowing that that's a journey.
Mm. Yes, just connected with that, actually, as you were speaking, it came to my mind that when we are able to see inside ourselves, in a sense, even our opaque or obscure parts, which means that we are transparent enough to make them visible to ourselves, I think we can have more empathy for other people's opaqueness, and lack of transparency and hidden things, and so therefore the connection then with detachment is that by seeing them, there's that love, but also the detachment that it's not such a terrible thing, because I've seen it. I see it in its full darkness, and I'm working on it with God. And so the same thing for others. So maybe we don't have to be shocked by, the lying or the corruption or the whatever might be going on. That yes, it's part of the opaqueness that little by little is leaving us as we allow the light of truth to shine deeper and deeper within us.
Yeah. So I think we reached the end with the meditation, right? Am I wrong, Manojbhai?
No, you're not wrong. You're right. But we'll just have a vote of thanks first, and then the announcements and a closing meditation. So all perfect. Thank you so much, both of you. And we'll invite our seniors, Dr. Ashok Mehta and Sister Claudia, to please propose the vote of thanks. Over to both of you. Dr. Mehta first.
Thank you, Sister Antonella and Radha Ben. I saw Radha Ben as a small, very young kid 30 years back. So it's so different to see you today, Radha Ben.
Thank you, Ashok.
We enjoyed your presentation, both of you. I think basically we are talking of the basic truth Satyameva Jayate, whatever is the truth will prevail. You have to be transparent. It's also again reflecting the light within yourself. I think it's very interesting. Somebody said that is to be companion and to be companion of God and to be trusty. I think it's best is to be transparent. I think that's the thing that touched me maximum. I think our life would be different if we are transparent, and everyone is transparent. But most of the time, I think it's the sanskars. When you're young and you tell the truth, people tell you that you shouldn't be telling that. You should always do it in a different way. So try to be opaque a little. I think sanskar is basically what makes you transparent or otherwise. But to be transparent is something which is phenomenal for us as a spiritual individuals. I think we need to be transparent to ourselves and to our companions, and most important to Him, the Supreme. He always says that whatever you've done, you just come and write to me or tell me, and that will be taken care of. I think we need to be transparent if we are not. And to be transparent, a habit to be transparent is excellent. But as I said, most of the time people will try and tell you not to be transparent, not to be truthful, not to tell the truth, because that may hurt someone. So I think it's a walking on a path which is very, very straight and which is very sharp and narrow. So I think the quality of transparency has been brought out in a very sharp focus, both in our discussion as well as in presentation. Thank you very much, both of you, Radha and Sister Antonella. Om Shanti.
Thank you so much, Shanti.
Shanti, it's nice to hear both of you. It's a pleasure, and especially the so important virtues, which is transparency. So it was quite nice talk between both of us. And I think that when we sing, like you said, if a soul is weak and they cannot be transparent because they're hiding their own weakness. And so if we understand that part, we accept more their mistakes and we become a little bit not judging them, but we kind of help that soul to be able to grow and then to be more transparent next time. And as little by little, we can see sometime when the soul is going through that process, how beautiful they come out after that, when they start working on themselves and improving more and more. And I think like you said, by empowering that soul, then we make them to be beautiful, like a light. So where we can see the light shining through them, and then whatever they are doing very beautifully, and then they will just go like that. So I think transparency is also for us, like Dr. Mehta said, sometime we cannot say the right word because the soul is weak, and then they will not take it. So we have just to have that feeling that sometimes they are going to be able to see. But ourselves too, we need to go deep inside, like Sister Radha said, and goes deep inside and check to see how transparent am I? So am I very transparent, or I'm trying to hide something inside myself from outside? So when we learn who we are and what we are doing, then we can accept more the other ones. Thank you very much to both of you. It was a pleasure to hear both of you and hope to see you again.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, both of you. And let me just quickly, what I did, okay, I'll just share the screen and we'll move on to our regular announcements for the next. Yeah. So let's move from Italy. Let's take our flight now northbound towards the UK and southbound to South Africa, because that's what we are having. These two sisters, again, They belong to the IYF, the International Youth Forum, both of them. And we are very glad that we'll be there for the 95th episode on proficiency called Praveenta, which is the next coming Saturday. Sister Gopi from UK and Sister Dipti from South Africa. So we'll be listening to them. And as always, again, the workshop would be on the week after. It will be Sister Sona Bari. Again, she's from. So we take our flight more eastwards and come to UAE, Abu Dhabi. She serves there. And as we speak right now, she's in Vietnam. So all these sisters are all over the place serving the globe. So it's good that we are able to get an opportunity to listen to them. And I remember both Sister Antonella and Sister Radha were also, when you all were there before, it was you all were in Madhuban. Both of you have done your episodes in the past from there. And you all were not comfortable with the value strictness. I know that very well. Transparency is the one which suits you all perfect. Thank you. And yeah, we'll just have this silence retreat as we always do. We end the month with silence retreat on one of the values. So this month end, it will be Sunday, 28 July for morning, India time, and Saturday for the West Coast, 8 to 10 on transparency. These are our, this is an elegant calendar which we have, thanks to Sister Kosha, who does it for us. And yeah, I forgot that the silence retreat will be dedicated to Manmohini Didi because it is very much, we call the month of her. And she really also was a very transparent soul. We all remember her very fondly. Actually, she's the only official Didi in the Yagya, we say, at Brahma Kumaris. She's the one who got this title of Didi. So that's what we'll dedicate to her. And these are our websites and email addresses. And all these playlists are available. As I said, we are soon coming to an end. So it is a nice treasure house which we have of all these compiled by all the speakers from all over the world. So with this, I'll just stop sharing and I'll request Sister Anu to please go ahead with the photograph. Over to you.
I'm ready. I'm sure everyone is ready. It's a beautiful moment to take this photo with our beautiful speakers and the treasure that we are taking with us. So yeah, there you go. People are opening up their videos. So yeah, I got it. Thank you so much. Over to you, Manoj brother.
Let's go into the meditation mode before we escape and exit. So will it be Drishti or commentary, whatever suits you?
I think we'd request commentary from one of the sisters, and we can take Drishti from the other sister.
Radha, will you do the commentary? Yeah.
Okay.
Oops.
So I find that comfortable position inside. I visualize myself as that beautiful, luminous being of light, illuminating my whole being, my body, my surroundings. As I connect with the source, with the Supreme. The luminosity grows so many times. And I allow the light of God's benevolent eye to penetrate deep into my being. I open myself fully, like an open hand. And I welcome the truth, the love, the wisdom. And these are gifts and treasures that I can distribute freely. As I remember who is the one who gave me these gifts. I take a moment to enjoy the energy of cleanliness, clarity, and complete transparency, like a diamond with no flaws, where the light passes through, creating beauty and wonder all around. Om Shanti.
Thank you so much, both of you. And a pleasure to have both of you once again.
Thank you.
Thank
you
you.
to everyone.
Yeah, thank you, and thank you, everyone. See you soon again. Thank you, both sisters.
Thank you.